Hey wine lovers, how are you? I'm Marc Supsic and I'm here on behalf of Wine Still Sold Out. So, what do you know about Chardonnay, other than that you like to drink it? Okay, so I'm guessing that you like Chardonnay, but it is an educated guess. After all, Chardonnay is the world's most popular white wine. But what is it about this wine that makes it so popular, so accessible, and so ubiquitous? For this weekly tasting, we're going to look at the classic expression from its roots in France, and then see what happens when it travels halfway around the world. Most people know that Chardonnay is from France, but because of their complicated wine labeling system over there, fewer people understand that it's actually from Burgundy. Almost all white Burgundy is made from Chardonnay. The Chardonnay grape was born in the Macon region of Burgundy. It's actually related to Pinot Noir, and the grape is named after a small village. And thanks to well-kept church documents, we know that monks were making wine in Burgundy as far back as 2,000 years ago. Over the ensuing centuries, traders and migrants took the grape with them in their travels around Europe. Then, during the mid-1800s, with the advent of steamship travel, the grape made its way down to South America. One of the main reasons for Chardonnay's widespread success is that it seems to grow almost anywhere you take it. Cool climate, warm climate, mountains, plains, coastal regions, it seems to grow wherever it goes. Chardonnay eventually found its way to California. By the 1970s, California Chardonnay was so undeniably good that it actually beat French Burgundy in a blind tasting competition. To this day, most Chardonnay around the world is made in these two major styles, Old World Burgundy and New World California. So let's talk about the French style and the California or American style. Burgundy, France is a warm inland region on the eastern side of the country. It does get hot there, but relatively speaking, not as hot as in California. And when you grow grapes in a cooler climate, the acids are usually higher. And I think that's one of the first things we're going to notice about these Burgundy wines. Secondly, winemakers in Burgundy don't use as much barrel aging, so we're not going to see as much oak on these wines. In California, the original Chardonnay style took a more American approach. It was bold and rich and buttery. It relied on lots of oak aging and a winemaking process known as malolactic fermentation. California winemakers are now pulling back on that big and bold approach, and they're making their wines a little bit lighter and leaner, more like the French. They say that knowledge is power. I say that knowledge is delicious. It's time to take all that knowledge that we have now and put it to use, tasting these wines. I've created a tasting mat here that may help you taste along as we go through this. So if you want to download that, the link is below the video. I thought it would be most appropriate if we started out with the original Chardonnay from Burgundy. This here is from Domaine Sangouard-Guyot, and it's from the subregion called Pouilly-Fuissé, which is right in the heart of Burgundy. This winery has been making wine in Burgundy for over 200 years now, and it's named after the two families that co-own it. This Pouilly-Fuissé was fermented in neutral tanks, probably concrete or stainless steel, which means you're not going to see a lot of additional oak or wood flavors in this wine. See how crystal bright and clear that is? That usually comes from a cooler fermentation. And also, it's not so intense, and that tells me that there's probably little to no oak aging here. The first thing that jumps out at me is sort of like a candied lemon curd flavor. Give it a swirl, get those aromas all worked up. Beautiful burst of that lemon curd, additional elements of white peaches and flowers, and, very interestingly, a nuttiness like toasted almonds. And this nuttiness comes from a winemaking technique that's very popular in Burgundy called sur-lie aging. And of course, let's taste the wine. Well, as expected, that's a beautiful wine. Super acidic, as we talked about, very high in acids, getting hit with that lemon curd and those flowers too, and just that slight toastiness in the background that comes from that sur-lie aging we were talking about. Something else to consider is a wine's finish. So after you swallow the wine, how long do the flavors linger in your mouth, and are they desirable flavors? A really long finish on a wine is a sign of a very high quality wine. So that right there is the original French Chardonnay, Pouilly-Fuissé from Domaine Sangouard-Guyot. Totally naked, all 100% Chardonnay shining through there. I love it. Let's check out this California Chardonnay from Anabol Winery. They're located in Sonoma, and for this particular wine, they sourced the grapes from the Sonoma coast, which is slightly cooler. So as you can see here, the color for this one is slightly more intense. It's more golden or maybe more lemon yellow. And that intensity is coming from barrel fermentation and also 17 months in French oak. So let's give that California Chardonnay a swirl. In keeping with the California style, the first thing to smack you in the face is oak. There's so much oak in there. There's some spice coming from the oak barrels as well, sort of like a cinnamon or a clove element. This is a big California Chardonnay. Now, it's not as big as some of them were in the past. They've dialed it back a little bit, but there's still that California attitude in there. First of all, it's more full-bodied, and there's some heat in there because it's a higher alcohol wine. There's some acid in there, which is good because it needs to balance everything out, keeps it nice and crisp, but at the same time, it's really bottom-ended. It's like very full and lush. Tons of candied Asian pear, and then not like your standard tart lemon, but like a sweet Meyer lemon. And of course, just the overarching, lingering presence of oak. This is a beautiful California Chardonnay here from Anaba, and I would say it's a classic California Chardonnay that's been dialed back a couple notches. It's got the high acids in it that are keeping it a little bit more fresh, like French Chardonnay, but at the same time, there's still that full body and the ripe fruit in there. That's classic California attitude. And now that we have a better understanding of Chardonnay, we should probably talk about some good food pairings, because you're going to get some recipes along with this tasting pack. Both of the wines that we tasted today were noticeably different, but they also shared some common ground, namely the acids. They were both high acid wines, which is common for a Chardonnay. So acid is a flavor enhancer first and foremost, so this makes them very food-friendly wines. But on top of that, it's also a palate cleanser too, so it makes it a great partner for fatty foods. The first recipe is for a seared tuna tataki. Now, tuna tataki usually uses some level of vinegar in it, which makes it acidic as well. So this is going to bridge from the food to the wine. The second recipe you'll get is for Mediterranean lobster spaghetti. And if you just think about how rich that dish is, it's going to be very nice with these acidic wines. They're going to cleanse your palate. They're going to wake the flavors up, almost the same way that squirting a fresh lemon on lobster does. Now that you're a Chardonnay expert, I suggest the next step is to look to other parts of the world and see what they're doing with the grape. And now that you've had the opportunity to taste both of these wines side by side, what do you think? Are you a Burgundy Chardonnay kind of person, or are you a California Chardonnay kind of person? Let me know in the comments section below this video. Thanks so much for joining me for this weekly tasting. I hope you enjoyed it. On behalf of Wine Still Sold Out, I'm Marc Supsic. Cheers.